We're living through this really fundamental mismatch. On one hand, you've got technology just hurtling forward at this crazy exponential speed. But then, on the other hand, our organizations, our teams, even just our own ways of thinking, we're kind of stuck on this slow, straight, linear track. So today, we're going to dig into how we can bridge that massive gap, especially now in the age of AI. This quote, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly explains the human side of this whole challenge. Resisting change isn't just about not wanting to learn new software. It's deep, it's psychological. We're wired to overestimate the safety of what we already know, and we just drastically underestimate the incredible things we could gain if we just stepped outside our comfort zone. And that's the real tension we have to solve if we're going to thrive. And this visual, this just captures that central conflict perfectly. I want you to think of it like this. You've got a rocket ship of exponential tech, right? But it's strapped to a tortoise of a linear organization. The rocket is trying to break orbit, and the tortoise is, well, it's built to just crawl along slow and steady. This right here, this is the mismatch where all the friction builds up and where so many incredible opportunities get lost. Okay, so to really get a handle on what we're up against, let's start with our first section and really understand this fundamental difference in the pace of change. This is the question, right? This is the dilemma that pretty much every leader is facing. Do we lean into all this uncertainty and start playing around with these ridiculously powerful new AI tools? Or do we just play it safe, stick with what's always worked, and kind of hope this whole thing is just another fad that'll blow over? It's a tough call. Because, man, that gravitational pull of the familiar, it's an incredibly powerful force. So, if ignoring AI just isn't an option, how do we even begin to engage with it? Well, that brings us right into our second section, which introduces a really powerful new way of thinking about this. It's a concept called co-intelligence. Wharton professor Ethan Mollick argues that this was a truly historic turning point. Think about it. November 2022, that wasn't just another software update. No way. It was the arrival of a completely new kind of collaborator, an AI that could do creative, innovative stuff that we used to think was exclusively human. And this is where a huge mindset shift has to happen. We have to stop thinking of AI as just a passive tool, like a hammer. We need to start seeing it as an active collaborator. That's the whole essence of co-intelligence, working with AI as a coworker, a coach, even a co-teacher to augment our own thinking, not to replace it. Here's a really powerful way to frame this. Imagine you just hired the sharpest, brightest graduate from a top university. Someone with a massive knowledge base, a brilliant analytical mind. What would you do? Would you stick them on data entry and filing papers? Of course not. You'd give them your toughest, gnarliest, most complex problems. That is exactly how we should be thinking about and using AI. So the strategy for actually harnessing this power has three key parts. First, we just have to accept that ignoring it is Luddite-level foolish. It's just not a viable option anymore. Second, we've got to learn how to partner with it, how to use its incredible power while staying aware of its flaws, like its weird tendency to just make things up. And third, we have to apply this powerful new collaboration to the one timeless goal of any business, creating and capturing new value. Now, once you have this new co-intelligent capability on your team, it fundamentally changes how you can operate. And that means our old ways of planning, well, they're just not fit for purpose anymore. And that brings us to our third section, why we have to accept the death of the 5-year plan. Let's just be blunt here. In a world where entire industries can get turned upside down in a matter of months, a rigid 5-year plan, it isn't just optimistic, it's basically a work of fiction. The ground is just shifting way too quickly under our feet. Strategy can't be some static document that sits on a shelf collecting dust. It has to be a dynamic, living process. The new way of doing things is actually a lot like changing a tire on your car. You don't just tighten one lug nut all the way down while ignoring the others, right? You'd warp the wheel. Instead, you move around, tightening each one a little bit at a time, bringing the whole wheel into alignment gradually. And in strategy, this means testing multiple ideas on many fronts with small, incremental experiments, instead of just betting the whole farm on one big initiative. And the advantage of being agile like this is huge. You can run dozens of small-scale experiments for low cost with almost no risk. So when an idea fails, and some will, you've learned something super valuable without bankrupting the company. And when an experiment hits, well then you can pour gas on it with the confidence that comes from real-world data. This is how you find what's next. But here's the thing. You can have the best AI tools, you can have the most agile strategy in the world, but none of it will matter without the right internal mindset. And that brings us to our final, and maybe the most important section, winning the battle against reality. The investor and philosopher Naval Ravikant, he boils down all effective decision-making to this one simple question. Are you dealing with reality as it is, or as you wish it were? For any of us, this is where the hardest work really begins. So here's the psychological trap we all fall into. We all walk around with this mental map of how the world is supposed to work. And when reality, the actual territory, doesn't match our map, our first instinct is to get frustrated and try to force reality to change. This collision between our expectations and the truth, that's the root of so many bad decisions. So what's the antidote to that? Well, according to Naval, it's about becoming a clear thinker. And that's not about memorizing complex jargon. It's about deeply, truly understanding the basics on a fundamental level. The real power is in simplicity and clarity, not in borrowed complexity. And this is the core obstacle, isn't it? The single biggest thing that clouds our judgment is our own stubborn idea of how things should be. We ignore the bad sales figures because we believe our product should be selling. We dismiss a new competitor because we believe our market position should be safe. The real pain isn't the moment things fail, it's the long, slow agony of the self-deception that led you there. So after exploring the pace of change, this idea of co-intelligence, and the right mindset for reality, it really all boils down to one final critical choice, which brings us to our last section, your pace or mine. At the end of the day, this is the choice. Do we overestimate the value of what we have and cling to our comfort zones, our old processes, our straight-line plans? Or do we have the courage to just let go, to embrace all this uncertainty, and to go out and create new value in a world that is fundamentally different than it was just yesterday? Look, technology has set its pace. It's exponential. The only question left is, will we adapt to its pace, or will we insist that it adapts to ours? Your pace or mine?